Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where we say, you so fucked. You so fucked. You so fucked. I'm working on my dance moves. It's always funny hanging out with black folks. They just be like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why does your body move like that? We don't understand. What? This is white boy dancing. You so fucked. You so fucked. Anyways. I have to amuse myself somehow. So I think this is interesting. I've been talking about the disaster of the job market. Eli, how do I get a job? I don't know. I've been talking about what a crap show it is. Part of that, I've talked about quiet firing and quiet quitting and quiet cracking. God, can you imagine as a boss? How many of your employees are literally losing their shit right now? But they're doing it silently. Winner. Anyways, I've been talking about this just to try to explain what the job market actually looks like. That's the whole thing, right? If you want to be a technology professional, if you want a career in technology, I can explain things to you, right? If you want to understand, like if you want to build IoT solutions, like why do you use Arduino? Why do you use Raspberry Pi? Why do you use a Pico or an ESP? Whatever the fuck the ESP is, right? I can explain these types of things. When it's sending up data or pulling data, I can explain which stack, AWS or Azure or whatever else stack to build on, right? I can explain how to go out and try to find solutions to try to solve for, try to add value in the whole 9 yards. But the big problem with so many people is they just want a job. They just want a job. Eli, I don't care about that tech stack shit. I just want a job. And the problem that you run into is many times the job market has very little to do with you. It's very impersonal. As I've said many times, it's not you. Like the job market just doesn't care, right? When times are booming, it's easy to get a job. When times suck, it's hard to get a job. I've talked about that when I started in the corporate world, right? The first job that I got at 24 years old with a direct line to the travel department, I should not have gotten. There is no way in hell anybody should have given me that responsibility. But it was 2000, right? All the stuff I've talked about before. So I got that job, right? I left that job, went to a different job. Things are going great. I thought I was on the track for CIO, CTO before I was 30. So I decided to fly off to Europe. And while I was flying off to Europe, the entire economy, or at least the tech economy, decided to explode. It decided to explode. So then, it's a couple years later. At this point, college degree, MCSE, Cisco, Avaya, a whole bunch of other stuff, experience of the whole 9 yards. And literally, there was one point where I was able to get a tech job in Seattle. I did get offered a tech job in Seattle. This is something that gets left out of the story. Eli doesn't tell us the full story. Yeah, because the shit gets so fucking stupid, it gets too confusing at a certain point. Literally, so I was in Seattle, right? Gone to find my fortune in Seattle. Ooh, that did not work out well. Anyways, so I was sitting there. It was coming up on tax season, and there was a tax software company in Seattle, and they were looking for help desk positions. So I was like, okay, fine. That's the whole thing. I was told by my MCSE instructor, at the end of the day, you always run cable, right? So I'll try to get this position, right? So a college degree, military, MCSE, Avaya, Cisco, built out, server rooms, the whole 9 yards. I'm sitting there looking at this $9 an hour help desk position. And then I'm sitting there, and across the table is another person. So me, I strike up a conversation, or actually I say words to other people, and then I listen to what they say, And then generally I'm horrified. Generally I'm like, fuck, I should not have asked that question. Anyway, so I started talking to this guy, right? So this guy's like 2 years older than me. And he had been, so like with me and my tech stuff, I was in Baltimore. So Baltimore did some interesting tech stuff, but it's not the hub, right? He had had like my career trajectory only like in Seattle. So imagine like my level of responsibility and all that kind of stuff, only you get the Seattle resources and you're around the Seattle people and the whole nine yards. So he was significantly ahead of me in his career because of where he was. And then I started talking about, like, oh yeah, so what position are you taking here? And he was like, yeah, the help desk position. I was like, oh, that wasn't what horrified me. That was like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're in the same boat. And then he's like, yeah, this really sucks. It's gonna be a 45-minute commute each way. I was like, fuck, what? You are going to commute 45 minutes each way for a $9 an hour help desk job, and your resume looks significantly better than mine. Oh, that was one of the brutal days of my life. But that's reality. That's just how the shit works. You can't fight macro. Macro wins every good goddamn day of the week. I think about this. When we think about macro, I had a good experience with macro when I was a kid, right? So I got pushed into sports. For some reason, my father thought I should do sports. I have no idea why. I suck at sports. I like hitting things. If he had got me into boxing, my entire life might be different right now. He didn't get me into boxing. He got me into like soccer, basketball. I was on the basketball team. I was the kid who scored one hoop the entire season. That was me. Anyways, again, we talk about macro forces and how macro forces can help you or hurt you. So the first soccer team that I was on as a kid, I was like in 5th grade or whatever, right? We were there and it was funny. We had like one of these gung-ho coaches, one of these gung-ho parent coaches. And we were the bad news bears. That never got any better. Literally, and I am not joking. We were the second worst team in the entire state. Right? Literally the only team that was worse than us. I do think they were all nibbling on glue during the rest periods. Like even we looked at the team we beat, the one team we beat, and went, wow. Like, we're kind of lazy and we don't want to be here. Those kids might actually have problems. Anyways, here's the thing, right? The first year I played soccer on the second worst team, and that's where I belong. That was my people. Anyways, the funny part was, right, how soccer teams work and all that kind of stuff in West Virginia. You just put your name in the thing, and they pull your name out, and they put you into a different team. I shit you not, the very next year, we went all the way to the state championships, and by God, I was standing on the sidelines while my team got us to the second place in the entire state. Literally, between the 2 years, I went from the second worst, and this is actually true, second worst team in the state to the second best team in the state. And to be clear, I did not deserve my medal. I got my medal because my dad was willing to drive me to those games. The point that I want you to understand here is, again, this whole concept of macro and how it really affects you. And why it's also important to be thinking about is how you optimize for luck, right? Imagine if I had given 2 shits about soccer. I didn't. I still don't care about sports. I still don't even really understand the rules of soccer, for Christ's sake. I literally played soccer for 3 years. The 3rd year, we also got to the state championships. Nothing to do with me. But anyways, right? Imagine if I had actually cared about soccer and I had practiced soccer and I really tried to be a good team member, right? simply by being on whatever team, I may have been able to go a lot farther in my soccer career, right? If I simply got placed on a team that was with other good people and they were actually good in comparison to the rest of the competitors for that season, and imagine if I had been able to carry my weight, which I did not, but imagine that I had been able to. At the end of that year, I could have proudly crowed that I was a member of the second best team in the state. And then imagine the next year, hey, look, that guy plays soccer pretty well, and he was on the second best team in the state. Maybe he should go to soccer camp. Maybe it's worth the money to invest in him going to soccer camp. Maybe, it's worth the coach spending a couple of extra minutes with this person, the whole 9 yards, right? It's when the lucky event happens, have you prepared yourself to be able to exploit it? Or you're just kind of like, nah, like I was. That's what I bring up with this whole job market thing. So anyways, what's going on right now? And at first when I saw this, I actually didn't think it was that interesting, but then it does have actual curious ramifications. It's now called job hugging. Job hugging. So apparently some people out there are starting to realize that rent matters. Like, this is one of the weird things I find with the young people. They're like, why should I even work? Like, to feed yourself? I mean, can you imagine being so privileged? Can you imagine being so privileged that you can say the words, why should I even work? Not, why should I work for this company? Or why should I do this thing? Why should I work at all? Like, my God, it's a thing of glory. Generations of American forefathers and foremothers busted their ass. They worked in the mines. They worked in the factories. They went overseas to fight for freedom or frogs or something, right? All for this moment, for you to have the ability to say, so bizarre. Anyways, but some people realize that eating is nice, and so now they're job hugging. Job hugging has replaced job hopping, consultants say, as workers cling to current roles. So yes, it does appear at least some employees out there are realizing, oh shit, the only thing worse than a bad job is no job at all. Especially in Trump's America, where he's trying to gut the social security safety net. I mean, think about that too, right? You think about those with macro forces. You got this weird stuff going on with the economy. You got this stuff, the layoffs in the tech world and all that kind of stuff. But at the exact same time, all of that is happening. Trump is taking a fucking blowtorch to the social safety net too. Just putting it out there. Anyways, the so-called Great Resignation has become the Great Stay. But experts say workers aren't just staying, they're job hugging. Oh my God. Maybe I should become a boss. Can you believe it? They're quiet and they're hugging. This sounds fucking wonderful. Maybe I do want employees again. They're hugging and they're quiet? Yay. Job hugging is the act of holding onto a job, quote, for dear life. Yes. Consultants at Korn Ferry, an organizational consulting firm, wrote last week. The rate at which workers are voluntarily leaving their jobs, known as the quit rate, has hovered around 2% since the start of the year, according to data from the U.S. Labor Department's Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey. Outside of the initial days of the COVID-19 pandemic, levels haven't been that consistently low since early 2016. So basically, in about 9 years, of the past 9 years, we have the lowest rates of people voluntarily leaving their jobs, deciding to leave their jobs to go to a startup company, deciding to leave their jobs to go have kids, deciding to leave their jobs because their boss is an asshole, right? The quit rate is a barometer of workers' perceptions of the broader labor market. In this case, they may be nervous about getting another job or aren't enthusiastic about their ability to find one. The current clinging is a stark contrast from the historic rate of job hopping that workers exhibited in 2021 and 2022, but experts say it makes sense given the current labor market trends. And this is one of the things, if you follow me for a length of time, I've been doing YouTube videos, or I've been doing videos since 2009, 16 years? I've been doing daily blobs. I've been doing daily blobs since 2012. I literally started doing live shows on YouTube in Google Hangouts on Air in 2012. One of the things that I keep bringing up is this whole idea of cycles. Cycles come and cycles go. 1 minute, it's all about collisions. The next minute, it's about work from home. The next minute, it's about return to office, right? All this shit is just cycles. So one of the interesting things is during the COVID, we were told about the employee revolution. Employees now have the power in our economic system. Remember when you were being, lied to about that horse crap? And one of the things I told you at the time is that this is just a cycle. They are overhiring. I said it back then. They are overhiring because of investment and a whole bunch of other things. This will reset itself at some period of time. And that's all that's happening now. The reality is employees did not have the power they were told they did, and now they're crying, and now they're quiet cracking. I think that's one of the big issues in our society too, is that normal people get lied to. It's valuable to lie to people. Like a lot of people, there's a lot of snarky people out there. And they're like, wait, how can Eli have 1.1, almost 1.1, I'm like 50 off, 1.1 million subscribers and then only get like 3,000, 4,000 views per video? And it is weird. Like some of my videos I get 2,000 and some get 40,000. Some get 250,000, right? And I think one of the reasons is because I don't lie to you. If I came here and I lied to you, I told you sweet little lies, life would be a lot better, right? Because people like those lies. Your boss is mean. The system is out to get you. Yes, you are fucking impressive or whatever the fuck, right? That's what pads people. That's what people like to hear. They don't like to hear shut up, buttercup. They don't like to hear stop being a lazy fuck. They don't like to hear, hey, you want to lose weight? Maybe eat less and exercise more. Right? I did that last year. Last year I lost 40 pounds in a year. Woo! Whoopee shit. You know what I did? I ate less and I exercised more. And you know what? You know how much shit I get out of people? Not everybody can do that, Eli. What, not everybody can eat less and exercise more? My exercise is literally running. Is literally right. That's it. You can walk or do whatever else. Right, but that's the thing, right? So people are lying. They are told these lies that we all know are lies. We all know they're lies. The whole concept that work from home is the future, that was horse shit the day it came out of the first person's mouth. Right? The point where they said, well, employees now have the power, like the idea, like the power dynamic is fundamentally changed forever. That was fucking stupid. That was fucking stupid when it was happening. It happens to just be a cycle type thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many of these young people are cracking is because they get lied to. They get lied to by the authority figures, right? They were told to learn to code. Who in the world was saying, maybe we probably have enough technology professionals at this point in time. We need to start thinking about where else to allocate human resources. Right, but that's not easy. So you're told to go out there and learn to code. And then you come out and there's no jobs. Why there's no jobs? Because there's not enough work for people to do. Right, talk about this with the whole BLM movement. BLM. God damn. I'd hate to be a black kid nowadays. Can you imagine? You had like 4 or 5 years there where it's like Black Lives Matter. Everywhere. Apple Music, Netflix. Everybody was screaming about how important black lives were. And, now it's 2025 and nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives two fucks. As I've talked about before, right? It's interesting with the NPR during COVID was putting out all this stuff, talking about how sad it was, right? It was a stain on our society where, black people in Louisiana and Memphis and those areas, they were dying of COVID exponentially more than white folks up in the Northeast. And the reason is because they had the secondary risk factors, right? They were overweight, they had diabetes, they had heart disease, they had congestive heart failure, right? They had all these horrible things going on with their bodies, and so COVID pushes them over the limit and kills them. And this is the great tragedy, right? COVID. When COVID kills a fat black guy, that is a tragedy. The funny thing is, right, after COVID, whatever, now, you don't really hear about it anymore. How often do you hear about the black folks with diabetes in the South anymore? How often do you hear about the congestive heart failure and all this other stuff, right? If you're a black person in the South and you die of a fucking heart attack, that, my friends, is how God intended. If you die of COVID, that's a stain on our national soul. And so I think it's interesting, we're thinking about right now, is just how much our young people have been blatantly lied to by authority figures that are simply milking them for money. Because it is hard to have the hard conversations. It's hard to bitch smack a young person and tell them to stop fucking whining. Nobody gives a fuck about your whining, right? It's a hell of a lot easier to be, right? So anyways, and I think that's why we're getting such a wackadoodle thing in the employee space right now. I'd be curious to see how it works out. Apparently some people are hugging their jobs. Let's see here. The current clinging is a start. Yeah, blah, blah. The share of job seekers who are, quote, not confident at all that there are, quote, plenty of jobs available has increased steadily to 38% in the second quarter from about 26% 3 years earlier. So the idea that people are looking for jobs, they are not confident at all that there's plenty of jobs. 38%. Almost 40% of the population. The hiring rate over the past year or so has plunged to its lowest pace in more than a decade, meaning that those who want to look for a new job may have a relatively tough time finding one. Job growth in recent months has also slowed sharply, which economists point to as evidence of a broader economic slowdown. The ratio of job openings per unemployed worker has fallen by about half since peaking at about 2 to 1. So 2 openings per 1 worker in March 2022 is roughly at 1 opening to 1 worker in June 2025, the latest month of available federal data. More CEOs reported plans to shrink their workforce over the next 12 months, then expand it. The first time that's occurred since 2020. The shares, let's see here, the shares were 34% to 27% respectively. So 34% of the CEOs plan to shrink their workforces, 27% of the CEOs plan to expand their workforces. What becomes interesting here, though, with again, a lot of you folks out there looking for jobs, a lack of movement in the job market may make it harder for new entrants like recent graduates to find work. So again, this is kind of the curious thing when you start thinking about macro forces and all the things going on, right? How many openings are actually available, right? In our system, in our economic system, movement is the most important thing. It's like water. Right? If water becomes stagnant, it becomes diseased and poisonous to humans, right? Mosquitoes breed in it, cows crap in it. You drink from a disgusting ass mud puddle and you're probably not going to have a good day. Right? You want the water to be flowing, right? You go up to a nice mountain, a fast mountain stream, and you can just drink the water right out of the stream. One of the great things about West Virginia, that's the kind of thing that you can actually do. Just make sure the deer haven't pooped in the water just a little bit up the stream, right? That's the thing. The faster it flows, the healthier it is. The more stagnant it is, the less healthy, the more unhealthy it is. One of the curious things to be thinking about with the job market, right, is if people are optimistic that there's jobs available, then they're more likely to take the risk of trying to go to another job or start something new, right? If I have a job and I have healthcare and I have all this stuff with the job, but I've hit the top limit of my job, right? I've been a junior developer, but I've been a junior developer now for my company for 5 years. I've just hit the top. Like, I'm fucking tired of CSS. If I have to see CSS again, I'm going to fucking vomit. I just don't care about CSS anymore, right? Here's the thing. If you're pretty confident you can find another job, you'll quit. And you'll probably quit many times, even if you do not have another job lined up, because you're pretty confident, right? Well, what is your job? What is the task you have at the company? Doing things like CSS. Hey, I bet a computer science student. Maybe. In the modern education system, I might trust a computer science graduate to do CSS. I mean, maybe. Anyways, right? But that's a bit. So you leave before you have a job to go into. That opens that position for somebody else to come in. Maybe they're able to do it more effectively, the whole 9 yards, right? That's one of the things, right? People grow out of their positions. They then leave the positions they've grown out of. That then allows new people to come in, and that creates the nice flow. Well, what happens? What happens when there are fewer jobs to jump into, right, out there? Right? What happens when people feel like even the jobs that are out there, it is even harder to compete for those? So even if they're qualified for it, there might be 100 other people that are qualified for it, so they're less likely to get it. Right? What happens when you start having that uncertainty? You look at what's going on with the economy. You look at the tariffs and all that kind of thing. Even if you go to another company, what if that company fails? Right? I really like that startup company. I really like that technology company. They got a great culture. I believe in what they're doing, but they're in this economic model too, right? Trump decides to put 100% tariff on some country that provides inputs into their systems. That might literally kill them. So even though I want to go to that, my heart of hearts believes in this company, wants me to be there. I need my health insurance. Well, all of a sudden, that means your position that you're in, right, that you outgrew a year or two ago, is now the position that you're going to do. You do not get that new person coming in. And that's just another thing, another issue that is coming about with this whole, jobs and hiring scene and everything else. And that's why it's important to go out and figure out how to solve problems. Right? Think about my actual lesson. The lesson I don't really think about a lot with my whole story, right? I was in the military. I was in the corporate world. I ended up putting up pull tab signs. You realize that I never went back to a normal job again. You realize when I talk about employment, I'm always talking about it from the employer's standpoint. Even now, when I talk about things like Silicon Dojo, I'm not putting out my fucking resume. I'm thinking about what skill set would I need out of employees that I hire. And I think that's one of the things to kind of be thinking about. And that's why solving problems and having initiative and all that is so important. And don't listen to me, right? I'm a jack, whoever the fuck I am, right? I'm a not boomer. I'm an over-the-hill not boomer screaming at clouds. But look at Louis Rossmann. He's real. He's a real technology. I don't know fucking why, but he's real and I'm fake. God bless, whatever. Look at him. He talks about fixing fucking Macs in the middle of a park in New York City, right? And that got him. I'm not really sure what that got him sometimes. I don't think his story is quite as confusing as mine, but it is pretty goddamn confusing, I gotta say. But that got him somewhere with employees and all of that kind of stuff, right? And that's why I talk about this whole stuff, about finding problems to solve. If you're focused on finding problems to solve, if you're focused on trying to figure out how to solve valuable problems and be able to get money out of people, you'll be fine enough. Maybe barring a heart attack. Because remember, in the United States, we can spend $13 billion on an aircraft carrier, but if you have a heart attack, there's a good chance you're going to go bankrupt. But anyways, barring the heart attack, if you focus on finding and solving problems, at the end of the day, you might be an employee, you might be a consultant, you might be a boss, you might be an owner, you might be a teacher, you might be a lot of different things. But you'll have a job. You'll have a job in this career. If you cry and you blow snot bubbles, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Right? I get this from so many people. Yeah, like on YouTube. Like, oh, you don't have empathy. Who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? What is it? Is that what's important to you? Is that what? It's not your mortgage. It's not your mortgage. It's not paying for food. It's not supporting your own goddamn kids, right? It's, oh, do I have empathy? Yeah, well, what can I say? I don't have a goddamn ounce of empathy for people that I'm not even quite sure exist. There is a part of me, there is a real part of me that does wonder if Mark Zuckerberg is just gaslighting the fuck out of me. Did I meet Mark Zuckerberg at a party many years ago and say something very stupid when I was drunk? And now my entire YouTube channel is just an elaborate gaslighting with all kinds of AI bots. I gotta say, if I was told that, I'd figure fair enough. Anyways, there you go. What do you think about job hugging now? But more importantly, what do you think about that with people that become overqualified in their positions, but they do not feel like they have a viable exit, which means that position isn't going to open up for the next generation? Where does that put our industry? I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing. Call me a moron. Just say it down in the comment section. As the very stupid comic book artist once said, paraphrasing, if you don't like my politics, watch every single one of my videos and comment on all of them. Anyhow, see y'all later.